In the 1950s, America had broken free from the shackles of wartime economics. It was walking with the swagger of a nation that had the world by the tail. Scientists had harnessed nuclear energy. Jet-propelled airplanes were breaking speed records, and the race to space was on. But perhaps more than anything else, one thing melded imagination and consumerism, putting this era in perfect context. The concept car. Unlike satellites, rockets, and jet planes, these dream cars were accessible. People flocked to auto shows to see concept cars in their titanium-bodied glory. They were snapshots of how America perceived its future. They were simply out of sight, unforgettable. But what happened to them? Most were destroyed. Some just plain vanished. But amazingly, some are still here.
The visual is what the key is. These were designed by someone to give a visual impact, and the sheer beauty and uniqueness and the lines of it are breathtaking.
In the early 50s, Chrysler Corporation produced a series of concept cars called the Fire Arrows. And Dual Motors, headquartered in Detroit, purchases the rights from Chrysler to do something with the shapes of the Fire Arrows.
Reintroducing the 1955 Alfa Romeo BAT 9 and the 1955 Dodge Firebomb. The U.S. Air Force launches a new generation of aerobie-sounding rockets and furthers its quest for high atmospheric research. Over the next year, the Lockheed X-17 research rocket would reach supersonic speeds to test the effects of high-speed atmospheric re-entry. Science, technology, and speed are quickly propelling mankind into the future. The automotive industry is moving just as fast, and America isn't the only country blazing a trail. This is the 1955 Alfa Romeo BAT 9.
The visual is what the key is. These were designed by someone to give a visual impact. What they stimulate inside is exactly what the designer's trying to get, and the sheer beauty and uniqueness and the lines of it are breathtaking. But it was what was going on in designers' minds and their thinking that put them onto paper. And you'll never see anything like this again in a time frame of what was going on in the world.
This sleek spectacle captured the essence and wonder of the 1950s. Space and the future were a fascination, and the Alfa Romeo BAT 9 was the perfect fit. Its beautiful sculpted body was a creation of Italian coach builder Bertone. The chassis was supplied by Italian carmaker Alfa Romeo.
Obviously, as a design company, Bertone, it was great because people saw this innovative new design, some unique things that had never been seen, and now they're on the cutting edge of slipstreaming, aerodynamics, beauty also, as you'll see in the car. Alfa obviously got recognition because it's on their chassis, and everyone's winning.
The Alfa Romeo BAT 9 was unveiled at the 1955 Turin Auto Show. This silver streak was actually the third edition in an incredible trilogy of futuristic concept cars. It evolved from the 1953 Alfa Romeo BAT 5 and the 1954 Alfa Romeo BAT 7. These concept cars were designed to help Italian coach builder Bertone rebound after World War II.
It really set a statement that they were now back in business, not as the dominant coach building house, but one to be reckoned with, that one that was going to go after and do well with manufacturers. The designs were named Berlinetta Aerodynamica Tecnica. We call them BATs, abbreviation BAT. And the funny thing about that is they had no idea that the acronym for that long word is also a unique flying creature that we all know as a bat. And when you start looking at the design of these cars and the similarities, they look like a winged bat.
After the spectacular release of its predecessors, the expectations for the BAT 9 were flying higher than ever. Auto show fanatics may have been clamoring for more of the same, bigger wings and more dramatic designs. But head designer Franco Scaglione defied expectations and took this design in the opposite direction, a polarizing move that would ultimately spell success or failure. In 1955, legendary Italian automotive designer Franco Scaglione worked with Italian coach builder Bertone to design the Alfa Romeo BAT 9. This beautiful concept car was the third member of an astonishing automotive trilogy that included the 1953 BAT 5 and the 1954 BAT 7. During the creation of the BAT 9, designers made the bold decision to tone down the dramatic curves found on the earlier BAT models. This was a calculated risk, but did it pay off?
And here we are in 1955. Once again, to an auto show, they want to make a statement, but I think they did that in the first 2 years, and I think they capitalized from it. Now I think, as a design piece, they wanted to create something that would be more able to be put into production. So in calming it down, you'll see the variations. The wings are smaller. The headlights are open and exposed. There's a front grille. The wheels are more open, they're not covered with skirts. And it's a more practical design, but beautiful still in showing his lineage of the creation of the BAT line.
The mysterious allure of the BAT 5 and the BAT 7 wasn't only because of their powerful visual impact. The intriguing bodies of these cars also had the astonishing ability to increase the top speeds of their Alfa Romeo chassis by some 30 kilometers an hour. For the 1955 BAT 9, the goal was the same, but to get there, designers charted a slightly different course.
The Alfa BAT 9 has a number of different features from the prior two cars. When you look at it, you'll see that it has headlights exposed, a grille. When you move to the side, you'll see that the rear wheels are not covered, much more like a production car. And the key element of the BATs, it's got a subdued wing line on it. And when you look at the wings, their lowness and the way they're done, you can see how designers of other automobile manufacturers saw that and said, okay, that's something we can implement, as in the prior cars, a little more flamboyant. Where BAT 9 looks much more like a production car could be.
For the 1955 Alfa Romeo BAT 9, the objective was to tame the BAT design into something more palatable to the everyday driver. Even though this goal was achieved, the most sophisticated member of the BAT brood would never make it into the world of mass production. This shimmering spectacle was only ever meant to be a showpiece. The exclamation point on one of the most memorable concept car series of all time. The 1950s may have been the golden era of concept cars. But no matter how memorable these show cars were, none of them were guaranteed to see the future they heralded. After basking in the glory of the auto show spotlight, the BAT brood's flight into the future was a turbulent one.
All three of the BATs have taken unique courses and went all over. They were just discarded cars that served a purpose, and now what do you do with them?
The chaotic obscurity of the private market separated the Alfa Romeo BAT 9 from its siblings. Left to fend for itself, the third member of the BAT trilogy virtually charmed its way out of the jaws of the crusher. Eventually, this car was led gingerly into the future by the most unlikely of shepherds.
It was on a used car lot in Michigan, and a young boy of 16 years of age saw it and saved his money and bought it. And he owned the car for over 20 years and is still very fond of the car.
Through the decades, the BAT 9 has passed through many hands. Now fully restored and reunited with its aerodynamic siblings, the 1955 Alfa Romeo BAT 9 rests its wings at the Black Hawk Automotive Museum in Danville, California.
I didn't invent the great cars that you see on this floor. They had already been discovered by previous people, previous generations, and all we've done now is we've continued the preservation. The reason I think they should always be a trio is because they are part of the same story. I mean, it's like reading a book. Do you want just part of the book, or do you want the whole book? People say, well, BAT 7 is the most beautiful one in the world, but then all of a sudden somebody will say BAT 9 is the most beautiful one in the world. Bottom line is all three of them are beautiful, and most of the car designers, even of today, consider it to be the greatest exercise of design series ever.
In 1954, Chrysler took a pass on the mass production run of an Italian-inspired conceptual series. But where one story ends, another often begins.
Chrysler, for whatever reason, essentially closed the book on the Fire Arrow project. Dual Motors comes in and wants to take the idea of the Fire Arrows to that next level of producing an actual functioning prototype where they believe they'll take that prototype and then spin it into a production car.
1955. Americans and Italians joined forces to manufacture 121 F-86K Sabrejets. It's been almost a decade since American troops returned home from the war in Europe. Sharing the momentum of peacetime economics, the connection between America and Western Europe is flourishing in every way imaginable. Transatlantic collaborations are becoming commonplace, and the automotive industry is right in the mix. This is the 1955 Dodge Firebomb.
It seems to me it's more of a design effort than an attempt to leap technology forward. The chassis that's underneath is pretty much a stock chassis. The engine is a Chrysler Hemi. The coach building company of Ghia from Turin, Italy, produced the body shapes and built the coachwork for the Firebomb.
In an automotive era dominated by space-age futuristic designs, the 1955 Dodge Firebomb was different. An American chassis with an Italian-built body. Italy's rich history in the art of coach building gave Italian cars a distinct look that Americans loved. This black beauty was unique, but it wasn't the first of its kind.
In the early 50s, Chrysler Corporation, like a lot of the car companies, decided that they wanted to do a series of concept automobiles which would explore some different shapes and styles, and also help to get the public excited about their brand.
Chrysler's Fire Arrow series acknowledged the emergence of America's Italian obsession. With the help of Italian coach builder Ghia and legendary automotive designer Virgil Exner, they released a family of 4 beautiful Italian-inspired concept cars. They were a smash hit on the auto show circuit, but a mass production run just wasn't in the cards.
After the show season in 1954, it's clear that they're not going to do anything with those designs and essentially close the book on the Fire Arrow project. Dual Motors, headquartered in Detroit, purchases the rights from Chrysler to do something with the shapes of the Fire Arrows. And the Dodge Firebomb is the prototype which came out of that. Dual Motors wants to take the idea of the Fire Arrows to that next level where they believe they'll take that prototype and then spin it into a production car. I think the lineage is very evident. And the more time you spend looking at the Fire Arrows, the more the Dodge Firebomb starts to remind you of that. The Fire Arrows all had one of the Exner features of a long, low hood. Exner was, like a lot of the designers at the time, influenced by the airplane. So when I look at the front end of the Fire Arrows and the Firebomb, there's a jet intake right there in front for the radiator. We have the same singular headlights that Fire Arrow number 2 had. And here's that wing that if you're familiar with Fire Arrow number 2, this will be a very familiar feature for you. You saw this on that same automobile. A little bit of the difference is that it's a prototype. So we're going to go to production with something very similar to this, and therefore the inclusion of the bumpers up front, which when you look at the Fire Arrows, you can't imagine a bumper on them, but here they don't detract at all.
The 1955 Dodge Firebomb faced more design challenges than your average concept car. It was a realistic depiction of a production car, so it needed all the necessary components found on a street-legal vehicle.
A very attractive interior. I have the dual large dials like I had on the Fire Arrows. They're right here. But again, it's a prototype, so I have to start to include things like radios, heaters. The windshield wipers that were lacking on Fire Arrow number 2 are here. But an interior, I think, you know, with this black and white trim and kind of the beige leather work that's here, it all really works well. Backside of the automobile. Here we have a couple of features that'll be familiar from the Fire Arrows. The Virgil Exner tail fins, that very subtle line that runs down the middle of the trunk lid. But a couple interesting things. On the Arrows, we had this side stripe that came all the way around the automobile. Well, here it's continued all the way around the back, which I think gives you a little bit of symmetry to it. The tail lights are larger, again, probably because of the fact that this is going to go to a production car. So we're going to increase that lens size. And there are your American bullets. We've kept the kind of the sweep of the trunk line. And one of the things that we've lost, we have dual exhausts as on the other cars, but we don't have the sort of the quad side pipes on the tail end here.
In a world of outrageous ultra-modern concept cars, the 1955 Dodge Firebomb was refreshingly accessible. Instead of dreaming about driving this car in the distant future, auto show enthusiasts could dream of driving this car right now. And as it turns out, some car buyers' dreams would come true. This prototype actually did go into production under the name Dual-Ghia. Unfortunately for Dual Motors, making a beautiful prototype is one thing, but making a beautiful mass production run is completely another.
The idea with the Dual-Ghia was, in Dual Motors' mind, was that they were going to produce a prototype, And they really felt that within 6 months they would have a production car out of that, ranging in price of about $5,000 to $6,000. Well, it turns out that it's about a year and a half to go from the prototype to a production car, the Dual-Ghia, and the price tag jumps to about $7,200. When you make that kind of price jump, the market kind of narrows quite a bit. And part of the Dual-Ghia's success is that it is a favorite of the Hollywood types. Sinatra has one. A lot of the Rat Pack winds up owning a Dual-Ghia because it fits that image and they have the pricing to go with it.
Even before their costs went up, the Dual-Ghia was about 3 times the price of an average new car in 1955. Their market was heavily limited to society's elite. To make matters more difficult, Dual Motors soon learned that building them is just as hard as selling them.
The underlying problem with the Dual-Ghia is that it depends on a Dodge chassis and a Chrysler Hemi engine, and once those bases go away, once Chrysler and Dodge change what they're doing, those raw materials are gone, and the Dual-Ghia is dependent on those being there.
For Dual Motors, replicating the beauty of an Italian hand-built body on an American chassis proved an endeavor too difficult to maintain. In the end, only about 170 Dual-Ghias were produced before the project was shelved. In an era of outlandish one-off designs, the 1955 Dodge Firebomb was a true rarity. It bridged the gap between concept car and production car, the missing link of the automotive world. But despite its uniqueness and beauty, long-term survival was not a guarantee. Fortunately, the 1955 Dodge Firebomb did survive. Now fully restored and reunited with 2 of its conceptual ancestors, this stunning prototype rests in the protective hands of the Blackhawk Automotive Museum in Danville, California.
The Fire Aero series to me with the Firebomb is an evolution of the Dual-Ghia. And the Dual-Ghia was basically a celebrity car. They built 100 and some Dual-Ghias, and basically Dean Martin and Sammy Davis, they all had them. And to get to the Dual-Ghia, you had to get through the Fire Aero series. I like them because they're beautiful. I mean, it's really just about the beauty of the car.